This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Now a new record for the black gold. The price of each barrel of oil has for the first time surged past $146. Analysts still blame international political tensions, particularly the growing Western propaganda pressures on Iran, for the surge in prices. They say a recent report that Israel is planning to strike Iran's nuclear sites has greatly contributed to sending up oil prices. OPEC Secretary General Abdullah al-Badri echoes the same idea, saying Iran's output cannot be compensated in the country if the country is attacked. Al-Badri says any potential military operation on Iran will push oil prices even higher than Thursday's record of $146 a barrel. Russia's gas giant Gazprom has predicted that oil prices will reach $250 per barrel. The company also says soaring oil prices would affect gas prices by a quarter by the end of the year. Earlier, we spoke to an oil expert in London about Gazprom's speculations. He believes the weakening US dollar, among other things, is causing the price hikes.
I'm not sure if that figure of 250 is, I believe it is still very high to look at, but it's definitely the oil prices has been going, and our analysis will keep going up. As you said, it's 146. It's very likely it could reach 150, 160. We are talking of even of possibility of 180 to 200 by the end of the year. These are possibilities. It depends on several reasons. But in a brief, it's the value of the dollar first, which has decreased a lot in comparison to other currencies. So really, this is one of the reasons which indicate the increase in the price of oil, because dollar is the only currency which oil is traded in. But the other one is really how the financial market look at what's going in the world and on the long-term forecast. The financial market look at it from point of view, is there enough energy reserve? What are the energy demands on the medium and long term? How are the policies of the U.S. in the world? Because U.S. is the only superpower. So all these affects this value of oil. All indication to the financial markets are on increase of that.
Munir Chalabi, an oil expert, talking to us earlier from London. Well, it's the anniversary of the downing of a civilian airliner, settling the case, despite settling the case for $61.1 million in compensation to the families of the flight IR 655 Airbus in the International Court of Justice. The United States government still refuses to apologize for downing the airliner. We're now going to Jihan Hafiz with more.
It says something not just about U.S. foreign policy, but about the culture of this nation in relation to the rest of the world, that the United States does not apologize, generally speaking.
As the Iran-Iraq war was coming to a close, the U.S. Navy warship known as the Vincennes shot down Iran Air Flight 655, also known as IR 655, a civilian airliner. All 290 passengers on board were killed instantly, almost 70 of whom were children. The incident marked a grim reality of U.S. foreign policy in the region, as then Vice President George H.W. Bush called the downing of IR 655 an understandable mistake. So Press TV asked the State Department if it would show diplomatic reconciliation if the United States finally apologized on the 20-year anniversary of the downing of IR 655.
Do you think it sends a positive message if on the 20th
anniversary of this incident, the United States government apologized.
To be honest with you, I'll have to look back and see the history of what we have said about this, about the issue. I honestly don't know. Look, nobody wants to see everybody mourns innocent life lost. But in terms of our official U.S. government response to it, I can't, I have to confess to you, I don't know the history of it. I'd be happy to post you an answer, however, to your question.
Well, do you think it showed a positive message in the midst of all this war talk?
Like I said, you've asked a question. I've tried to be very upfront with you. I don't know the history.
And according to many who remember the incident, it was the commander of the ship who made the call without much thought of consequence.
What we do know is that he had taken actions both before and after that, which indicated to those who investigated it later that this was somebody who was deliberately reckless, that he was spoiling for a fight with Iranian forces. And that's really the story behind this, that it was because he was looking for a fight that he made that mistake. And the real tragedy and the real scandal is the fact that the U.S. Navy and the U.S. military generally covered this up. They knew that there was strong evidence indicating that he was at fault, that there was no excuse for it, and they chose to cover it up for political reasons, obviously.
The State Department released a statement hours after we asked the question that said they regretted the loss of life in the incident, but did not mention an apology. Jahan Hafiz, Press TV, Washington.
Well, Jordan's King Abdullah is visiting Iraq soon. It's the first such trip by an Arab leader in 5 years. Iraqi government spokesman Ali al-Dawak says the visit is scheduled next week. He says it will improve ties between Iraq and its neighbors. No Arab leader has visited Iraq since Saddam Hussein was removed from power in 2003. Also, the embassies of Arab countries in Baghdad have been closed or staffed with lower-level officials since then. Iran's President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad made a historic visit to Iraq in March.
الدكتور أمين حطيط الخبير الاستراتيجي سيكون ضيف هذه الحلقة. أهلا وسهلا بك دكتور.
Military expert Dr. Amin Hittite will join us in this episode. First, we will present the reports that were originally broadcast on Israeli television. Then we will talk about them. Let us begin with Iran. Iran is now a potential target of an Israeli airstrike. One may reach this conclusion based on the 3-week military maneuver that was conducted jointly by Israel and the U.S. However, this military maneuver also has another implication. All of those who can understand what is going on the ground can hear an Israeli cry for help, which says, "Please do not abandon us." The following report was originally aired on Israeli Channel 10.
Israel wanted the world to see one of its largest military maneuvers. Nevertheless, the scenario of dozens of Israeli planes attacking Iran is not an illusion. 50 F-16 planes and numerous F-15 planes participated in the training maneuver, in addition to fuel planes which supplied the fleet with fuel in the air and other planes for communication, air control and electronic warfare. Also, Ya'asor helicopters followed the fleet with rescue men ready to help pilots who may lose their planes. This fleet, which is almost half of Israel's total fleet, is sufficient to only hit 2 or 3 locations in Iran. Therefore, considering the limited number of Israeli planes and the way in which Iranian nuclear facilities were dispersed throughout Iran, one realizes that Israel's ability to stop Iran's nuclear program is very limited. Also, the distance between Israel and Iran, which is 1,500 kilometers, means that the Israeli option to strike Iran will not be successful. Not to mention the Iranian response. Here in Israel, there is hope that the United States will do the job. The Americans do not lack planes in the Persian Gulf. However, the American intelligence report has derailed any potential plan to launch an attack on Iran, despite the fact that the current administration does not agree with the report.
For the sake of peace, the world must not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
Despite these statements, the Israelis believe that it will be difficult for the American administration to launch an attack on Iran. Israel still hopes that this will happen, but time is running out. In 1 year, Iran will develop uranium enrichment technology, and then it will be too late.
I strongly believe that Iran will not become a nuclear power.
It is not clear what Olmert is basing his statement on. Israel, however, has to prepare for the military option, and hopefully it will not have to use it. Sometimes it seems that Gaza is the main problem. Make no mistake about it. What is more important to Barak and Ashkenazi is Iran.
According to the report, there was direct acknowledgement that the military maneuvers were held to strike Iran. Can Israel attack Iran?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أولاً من خلال ما عرض في هذا التقرير.
In the name of God, the merciful and most compassionate. First of all, based on what was revealed in this report, one can conclude three contradictory messages. The first message is that Israel is preparing itself for a military operation and that these maneuvers may precede a war. The second message, which is contradictory to the first one, is that even if Israel uses all of its military capabilities, it will not be able to get rid of Iran's nuclear program. Israel does not have the means to do that, and this applies to other issues as well. The third message might be directed to Iran, that Israel is preparing for a military operation and it will not give Iran the opportunity, which is an exaggeration. Thus, the military maneuvers may stem from a serious intention to attack Iran, or they may be just a bluff. Amidst these messages, one can say that the Israelis are unable to do anything to stop Iran's nuclear program for several reasons. Not only because Israel does not have sufficient capabilities to destroy Iran's program, but also because Israel can't endure Iran's retaliation.
بل على عجزهم عن تلقي الضربة الإيرانية.
In the Jordanian capital, Amman, the Japanese-Iraqi Business Forum convened, place to discuss investment opportunities in Iraq. Meanwhile, Iraqi Vice President regretted exaggeration of bad security situation in Iraq. Nisreen al-Shamaila reports.
Iraqi Vice President Tariq al-Hashimi came to Amman to attend the first Japan-Iraq Business Forum, bringing along with him business portfolios of oil, power, foreign trade and investment opportunities in the reconstruction of Iraq, in an attempt to convince Japanese officials and businessmen to invest in much-needed rebuilding projects in Iraq and the Kurdistan region. Although Japan provides funding to the Iraqi government, it has yet to partake in any rebuilding projects, claiming that the security situation in Iraq does not provide a safe environment for Japanese companies to operate and invest, a reasoning Hashimi considered quite exaggerated and illogical, given the improving situation in several Iraqi provinces.
Let your policy tailor-made to the success of security in Iraq. I am just visualizing your stance today as used to be 1.5 years before. This is not acceptable. This is not logic. You have at least to redesign your policy according to the success, to the improvement achieved inside Iraq, which is not happening. So there is, yes, straightforward exaggeration about the situation.
And although both countries expressed desire to enhance and revive economic ties, Hashimi described the Japanese desire as shy, timid and hesitant, explaining that the Japanese have yet to be clear on what conditions need to be met in Iraq in order for Japanese investments to kick in. And although Hashimi renewed his invitation to Japanese companies to visit Iraq to see the improved security situation firsthand, the Japanese have yet to take this invitation seriously in what was read as Iraq needs Japan much more than Japan needs Iraq.
For the real reconstruction, we think that the participation of the private sector is vital. But so far, the biggest concern of the Japanese company is security. Maybe because Japan is the safest country in the world, they have some reluctance. And as for Vice President Hashimi's remarks, I think it is because Iraq wants Japan so much, because they have a very good memory of their past in 1780s, and they appreciate Japanese product and Japanese companies.
Of course, the United States also had a strong presence at the forum, with a goal to convince the Japanese that Iraq is not as dangerous as Japan thinks, in what was seen as an American defense of Iraq's case.
Today, let me just say, there's music in the streets. There are people in the park. So this is a big change, and we don't see this changing and going back the other way anymore.
Oil-rich Iraq has seen a striking increase in its annual budget because of the dramatic increase in the sales of crude oil, reaching 2 million barrels a day. However, Iraqis still need employment opportunities and new infrastructure. Though Iraq can be fertile ground for lucrative Japanese investments, the future of Japan's economic role in Iraq remains vague and unknown.
Both the Iraqi and Japanese governments have a desire to revive their economic relations and bring them back to the way they were in the 70s and the 80s, when Japan ranked first in export value to Iraq. And although Hashimi renewed his invitation to Japanese companies to come to Iraq on a fact-finding visit, any Japanese projects to rebuild Iraq remain tied to the security situation in the Iraqi provinces, which Japan still has reservations about. Nisreen Al-Shamaili, KSA2, Amman.
The Israeli police ordered the family of the attacker in the bulldozer incident to remove a mourning tent they staged next to their home in the village of Sur Baher in southern occupied Jerusalem. The Israeli authorities are also looking into demolishing the family's home. Meanwhile, the Israeli police increased their security patrols across Israel. In addition, the army took additional precautionary measures at the military checkpoints in the West Bank. Ilyas Karam has the details.
In the village of Sur Baher in southern Jerusalem, the Israeli police have carried out a pre-dawn raid at the home of the attacker in the bulldozer incident. During the raid, the Israeli police detained several members of the family and ordered them to remove a mourning tent they staged next to the home. The family expressed sorrow for their son, Hussam Dawiyat, and said that he wasn't affiliated with any Palestinian organization.
Why did they kill him? Why? Why?
We were surprised and shocked. It was a traffic accident. We really regret what happened. They shouldn't have shot him. They should have waited. Maybe someone was pursuing him. Why did they shoot him? Why?
The story of Hussam's family can be corroborated with these images. According to Dawiyat's defense lawyer, the images are showing police negligence. The police should have tried to arrest rather than shoot him.
We do not see him as a terrorist, and we do not think the incident was a terrorist attack. The images show police negligence rather than opening fire on him again.
However, the Israeli side of the story is different. Israel continues to describe the incident as a terrorist attack, carried out presumably by an attacker acting alone. Meanwhile, the Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak called for the demolishing of the attacker's home by the very same bulldozer. Barak also demanded to deprive Hussam's family of the right to reside in the city of Jerusalem.
These security measures will counter, but not to prevent attacks. As long as the Arabs are allowed to carry blue identification cards, they can go anywhere they want. Therefore, we cannot stop terrorism unless the separation wall is extended to here.
Here at the scene of the incident, the responding police officers are being described as heroes who prevented a bigger attack. However, the Arabs who killed the Israeli soldier and stopped him from killing more civilians in the heart of the city of Shafar Amr in the Galilee 3 years ago were treated as criminals by the Israeli judicial system. Amidst these two conflicting stories, the events of the Jerusalem attack unfolded. While Israel described the incident as a terrorist attack, Hussam's family said it was nothing but a traffic accident. Israel will try to employ the attack to further tighten the grip on the Jerusalemites. No one knows for sure, but the idea of building a wall separating the Arab towns from the Jewish neighborhood may have become imminent.
A Qassam rocket was fired at the western Negev a short time ago from the Gaza Strip. There were no injuries and no damage caused. Jean Relevi, killed in yesterday's terror attack in Jerusalem, was laid to rest today at the Har HaMenuchot cemetery in the capital. The other two victims, Elizabeth Goren Friedman and Batsheva Unterman, were buried last night in the capital. Meanwhile, 11 people remain wounded in the attack, remain hospitalized, 4 with moderate wounds, the rest lightly injured. Several are expected to be released later today. IBA's Eli Wogelanter has more on the aftermath of yesterday's deadly rampage.
Batsheva Unterman, 33, was driving down Jaffa Road with her 5-month-old daughter Efrat when the terrorists plowed into their car. The mother was killed instantly, but her child was saved by passers-by who pulled the infant from the car moments before the terrorists rolled over the vehicle, crushing it. Born in Israel to a couple who had emigrated from Holland, Unterman had worked for years as a kindergarten teacher in the Har Choma neighborhood. She was married to London-born Ido Unterman, whose grandfather, Isser Yehuda Unterman, was chief rabbi of Liverpool and Tel Aviv before becoming Israel's chief rabbi between 1964 and 1973. Batsheva's husband, Ido, an investment banker, was only told that she had been killed hours after the event. Elizabeth Goren Friedman, 54, originally from Austria, was a resident of Katamon who worked as a teacher in a school for the blind. She was divorced and the mother of 3 children. Jean Relevé, 68, was an air conditioner technician who lived in the Gilo neighborhood. He was born in Iran and was the father of 2 daughters and a son. He was to become a grandfather in about a month. Details of exactly how the terrorist was stopped continued to emerge. Apparently, he was shot by a policewoman and was presumed dead before regaining consciousness for a second deadly rampage. An off-duty soldier, whose identity and unit are barred from publication by a court order, was home on leave riding his bike down Jaffa Road. He spotted the overturned number 13 bus and a massive bulldozer tearing through the streets. Realizing that the man behind the wheel was in the midst of a terror attack, the soldier threw his bike to the side of the road and began to chase the bulldozer. Together with a civilian, he climbed aboard the bulldozer and began wrestling with the driver. At one point, he yelled out, "Allahu Akbar," and stepped on the gas pedal, the soldier said. I drew the weapon of the civilian who was with me and shot the driver 3 times in the head. I think I did what was expected from every soldier and citizen.
The most important thing is we lost lives. And on every side, we have bad people, and they won't let Israel be in peace. And I feel very bad from the heart because of that.
One amazing fact concerns the off-duty soldier. It turned out he is the brother-in-law of the off-duty soldier who killed the terrorist in the Merkaz Rav Yeshiva attack 4 months ago. Moreover, he was an activist who fought against the expulsion of the Jewish communities of Gush Katif and had been arrested. He had to fight the IDF in order to join the army, which had barred activists from serving in the IDF. Meanwhile, 40 people were hospitalized in the attack, and 11 remain hospitalized in stable condition. Eli Wogelanter, IBA News.
In other news, officials from the Iranian embassy in Beirut, along with family members of 4 Iranian diplomats who disappeared in the 1982 war in Lebanon, are insisting that they are being held in Israel. A son of one of the missing diplomats says he has new information proving they are being held hostage in Israel. Jerusalem has promised to pass information on to Hezbollah regarding their fate in exchange for information on captured Israeli Air Force airman Ron Arad. Apparently, the 4 were captured by Phalangist Christians in Lebanon and executed.
In response to the British resolution, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, said he was not surprised by it and described it as a medal of honor to Hezbollah.
This resolution was not surprising. I personally believe it was only natural for a country like Britain, which founded the Zionist entity, to issue such a resolution. Britain is a main partner in the uprooting of the Palestinian people.
Secretary General of Hezbollah Hassan Nasrallah said that the prisoner swap deal between Israel and Hezbollah under UN auspices has been approved and added that the deal will likely be implemented in a week or two. Nasrallah further announced what he described as absolute political openness to reunite Lebanon.
On a personal level, and despite the difficult security situation in Lebanon, I, along with my brothers in the leadership of Hezbollah, announce absolute political openness to reunite the nation. We are open to any political meeting or dialogue and under any political slogan or framework. This will certainly help reunite the Lebanese and repair their national unity as well as promote peace and harmony. It seems that the war of words between Iran and the West is not ending anytime soon. Iran is not letting any opportunity pass without reiterating its position. Iran is also warning the West against any political provocation or blackmailing over its nuclear program. Meanwhile, the vast majority of the Iranian parliament warned the international superpowers against seeking to impose new sanctions on Iran. Moscow also warned against any military action targeting Iran and said if this happens, it will be disastrous for the entire region.
More than 201 members of Iran's parliament signed a declaration warning the international superpowers in the Group 5+1 against imposing new sanctions on their country. The representative said that if the group moves to impose sanctions on Iran, they will be forced to take a resolution similar to the one that was adopted by the parliament in February 2006. In 2006, the Iranian parliament adopted a resolution to stop implementing the additional protocol to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which allows surprise inspections of nuclear sites. The non-compliance with the additional protocol came after the transfer of the Iranian nuclear program to the UN Security Council, which ultimately imposed sanctions on Tehran.
Iranian officials believe that nuclear technology is a legitimate right for the Iranian people, and no power in the world can take away this right. I believe that the Iranian parliament will move to adopt a resolution to impose further restrictions on the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, and its inspectors regarding the inspection and the monitoring of Iranian nuclear sites.
In a surprise move, Iran's 8th parliament, with its fundamental majority that often criticizes the government, called for a dialogue as a solution to the Iranian nuclear crisis. This news comes despite the many fiery speeches often given by the Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who recently said that Iran will not negotiate over its nuclear program with anyone but the IAEA. Meanwhile, the Iranian parliament said the common denominators between the international incentives proposed by the Group 5+1 countries and those offered by Tehran must be used as a gateway to the negotiations.
The current situation in Iran suggests that the Islamic Shura Council will move to resolve the nuclear issue through negotiations between Tehran and the international leading powers, including the Group of 5+1 countries.
The IAEA might have praised Iran for its cooperation in the area of inspection and its positive response to clear ambiguous points surrounding its nuclear program. However, Tehran has failed so far to diffuse international fear and has failed to convince the international community that its nuclear program is a civilian one. The Iranian parliament took a positive stand on the recent talks held between Tehran and the EU foreign policy chief Javier Solana. In addition, several Iranian officials close to the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic called on Tehran to accept the incentives offered by the international leading powers and resume the negotiations. With this, it seems that a solution to the Iranian nuclear crisis began to appear on the horizon.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.